Right, this is a protest outside the Supreme Court, or the Federal Court, I should say, in Sydney today. It is a Thursday, and it is, I will just check my phone, it is the 19th of June. And yeah, this is a protest for the right to protest. There's a challenge, I believe, being put on by the PAG, Palestine Action Group. I'm just waiting on my coffee in the meantime. And it's just going to go to court. The cops are around. There's a kind of a priesty looking guy here clerical looking guy that got, thank you, my coffee's ready. He got invited in, he got brought along by the cops, and the cops standing there keeping an eye on him. So yeah, who knows what's going on, but we shall see. I know he's off now. He's walking with him again. I'm not 100% certain why he gets his little, and then the other cop is just waiting, and then he walks with him. So he gets like a police escort in and out of the group after talking to Josh Lees of the PAG. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, who knows? Oh, I see. There's something else on down here. Maybe might be a funeral for. Oh, that's what it is. Sorry, I think it might be like a police funeral or something. There's a lot of cops in their full uniforms, and a lot of, or if they're cops, I don't know, they've got a lot of badges, and they're quite high-ranking kind of looking guys. I should know them a bit better, who's who and what's what, but it looks like it might be a funeral. So they want to, that's what the cops are doing. That's my bad. They're just, oh yeah, is that a hearse? Yeah, the hearse there, so that's a funeral. So yeah, whatever it is, it's happening here. The media, there's a good-sized media contingent up there. I'm not sure, New South Wales Rural Fire Brigade. Okay, so someone connected to the Rural Fire Brigade and connected to the, there's a guy there with an axe. So not sure, the plot thickens a bit. Oh, here, the Palestinians are off. So we better follow. There's a reasonable contingent of media here. There's not as many as has been last few things, but there's a SBS. I can see his little microphone, and that's it. There's one other. It looks like two lots of media. Not much, not an insane amount of interest in this one as it was last week when I was here. There was, several, quite a lot. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think they're just moving into the sun to get a bit of sun before they do their speeches beforehand. It's pretty freaking chilly Sydney morning. Yeah, here we go. So that's it. They're coming around the front. There's a third media cameraman. So that's 3 lots. We'll check out who they are. And they're going to do, they put out the advertising to get here at 9:30, so I'm assuming their case is at 10:15. I might go, or I might not, see how we feel about it later. But it's getting it all set up now. Get the shot in. There's Bob with his Gaza blood, Netanyahu drinking a cup of Gaza blood in his little thing there. He's very, very well known amongst everyone. Here's the TV head, that guy in the middle. Lots of them pretty much here. So, SBS, News First, and ABC. So we got one, at least the 3 lots here. So yeah, we'll have a listen to what they say.
To the media, and then we're going to kick off our rally. So hang around so you can listen to some of what people say to the media, and then we'll get started after that.
All right, just Damien, part of the PAG, just announced about they're going to do a press conference first, and then they're going to do after the press conference they're going to do their rally, which will be some of their talking points, I guess, as well on top of it. All right, let's see how we go. We've got Sue Hickinson just arrived here. She's at Greens. What do you call it? MLC, I think they call them up in the New South Wales Parliament. So she's wandered down. A few other people I should know and don't know. But I'd say Josh. This is Josh Lees. He's the main guy, looking pretty snappy today. Dressed up a little better than usual. He's going to court, I guess. Yeah, if my advice to them would be because the press is over there and they're filming, the speaker will be here, and so the speaker's going to be here, the press is there. Why don't they get the people to stand behind and make it look like there's a crowd, there's some sort of a group here behind them. But anyway, that's just my my humble opinion. A lot of more organised protesters do that, like the teachers and the doctors and the nurses and all that. They all do it because they've got it down pat. And they're very much more well organised as that lot, in the sense that it's not as grassroots as these ones are. What's this lady's getting dressed up in hazmat suit? Something's going to be going on with this. She can't get into it, having a little bit of trouble, but that'll be she'll be in a hazmat suit coming through for some reason. This belongs to this socialist woman. There's the in the background. Is it just my blabbering? What's it going to say on the front here? Something. Can't quite see it. She can't get into it. She's giving it a good go. It's not happening. And what's her name? Evans, Rachel Evans. That's the Rachel Evans mobile that gets around town. She's was the Socialist Alliance candidate for the last election. They did pretty dismally, of course, in Sydney especially. You're only against Tanya Plibersek, who's in home and hosed. There's no one else to vote for really. They're such a bad selection in Sydney. Anyway, look, stop rabbiting. Let the press conference get underway. Funeral's kicking off. Press conference about to start. It's all going on outside the court. The press conference is starting.
We're here today because we're challenging the latest set of anti-protest laws rushed through this parliament by this Chris Minns Labor government. Now we maintain that the right to protest is a fundamental and crucial democratic right. The laws that Chris Minns rushed through Parliament earlier this year were passed under a big cloud, a cloud of basically lies and conspiracy, I would say, because the Minns government, we know, had been told that this entire the Dural Caravan episode, this hoax that was going on at the time, the Minns government knew actually that this was all part of a criminal con job, and yet he kept the public and the Parliament in the dark about this whole affair while he rushed through laws through these parliaments which take away our right to protest. In particular, we're challenging the ability for the police to move on any protests that could take place near places of worship. We say that this is a big threat to the right to protest in this state because almost everywhere we protest happens near a place of worship. These laws are very broad, undefined, and threaten the right for all different causes to be able to exercise their democratic rights. So we're against these laws. We say that they're unconstitutional. They take away our right to protest. We're challenging those laws in the court today, and we think that it's more than ever, now is the time when we need the right to protest against all of the horrors going on in the world today, in particular the wars and the genocide in the Gaza Strip. So we have here today with us part of our legal team and others who are going to speak about this issue and this case and why these laws need to be overturned and in fact repealed by Chris Minns. So thank you, and I'll pass over to Peter O'Brien.
I'm O'Brien from the Solicitors. We are happy to be supporting and acting in this case today. This is about the right to protest, and the right to protest is not only fundamental to democracy, it is foundational. The right to be able to protest in a place in the city, in the places where it counts, and before parliamentarianism within a democracy is absolutely fundamental to the democratic process. And these laws are a stretch too far. They are not about protecting worshippers. They are not about protecting parishioners. They are about subverting the right to protest. The right to protest has always been shielded from the move-on directions that police otherwise have the power to have. And this is about enveloping the rights, the law in relation to police being able to move on people, move on protesters, if they're in a particular place. And it is geographical. It is not about the right to worship. It is about the right to protest. Parishioners and worshippers are not affected by protesters, and the law as proposed, these laws as proposed, do not in any way speak to the issue of harassment or any sort of vilification of protesters at all, of worshippers. They are all about subverting the right to protest. And that's why this is a law too far. It is unconstitutional. It is undermining the right of freedom of assembly, and that is, I say, is axiomatic and foundational to the right that we have in a democracy, everyone's right to protest and to stand up and be heard in relation to all issues, not only Palestinian issues, but all issues. So the right to protest has been undermined by this law, and we are very proud of supporting and fighting against it in this case today. Thank you very much.
It was a dreadful night, the night that these laws were rushed through the New South Wales Parliament. As a lawmaker here in New South Wales, we did everything we could in the Parliament to avoid this absurd affront on our democracy. This is a moment that Chris Minns needs to take proper notice. He has gone too far, his government has gone too far, and this is an affront on the very heart of our democracy. All Australians should be very concerned when we see the police being handed these kind of powers that the police never asked for. When I questioned the New South Wales Police Commissioner and the Deputy Commissioners in budget estimates about these police powers, and I asked, did you ask for these powers? Do you need these powers in order to ensure the good governance of people protesting in New South Wales? And they all looked at each other with curiosity. None of the police asked for these powers. These powers are an absolute stretch too far. We know in New South Wales so much of our good governance, our freedoms and our civil rights have been won and are founded on the right to protest, the right to assemble, the right to gather, the right to exercise our dissent against bad government policy. And here, Chris Minns has gone too far. I absolutely celebrate and commend the brave actions of the plaintiffs in these proceedings that will commence today. The legal team that once again have put all their other work on hold to defend our democracy, with all of you who are gathered here today and the good people around this state that understand how important, and now more than ever before, our rights to assemble peacefully, to exercise our dissent and to gather and to urge our governments to do better and to do the right thing. Democracy is at stake today. These police powers of these move on powers are an absolute step too far. We are certain that they are unconstitutional. We warned the government. The crossbench was incredibly united in the Parliament. We warned the government this was a step too far, and here we are again, once again. We saw this under the Perrottet government, and it was the knitting nanas who brought a constitutional challenge in this very court here and won. They won for our democracy, and I am certain again that these proceedings we will see the government has gone too far. It's time that Chris Minns and the New South Wales Labor government stands with the people to protect our democracy, not erode the very heart of our democracy, which is the freedom of political association and gathering on our streets to communicate our dissent and the power of the people together.
Tim Roberts, President of the New South Wales Council of Civil Liberties. We welcome this challenge to these undemocratic laws. The plaintiffs are defending our democracy, and we thank them for their efforts. This law that's being challenged today is part of a suite of laws that Minns has passed and should be ashamed of. History will look very poorly upon this government. Indeed, we look poorly upon this government. It's one that should be disgraced by its attacks on our democracy, our freedoms of association, our limitations on speech, or for an appearance to seem strong in the media, empowering police in such a way that they didn't ask for, they didn't want, and is unhelpful to their public image and indeed our own rights to assemble in and around places of worship. These laws undermine parishioners members of any congregation from demonstrating at the front of their own church, bringing a light to any particular horror that might be happening within those closed doors. These laws prevent them from representing their own rights. Touch one, touch all. These laws affect those people, they affect all of us, and we should all be deeply concerned about what's happening in these laws. We thank the plaintiffs for their challenge. We thank the plaintiffs for their challenge in these laws. We welcome it as a test to the democratic nature, but also how this Minsk government has got the balance wrong. And we ask for them to reverse their current trajectory of undermining our democratic rights and freedoms. And we call on the Minsk government to show up to the inquiry. We call on the police minister to show up and answer questions about what's going on. They have taken a torch to our democracy, and they need to answer questions about what has happened, what they knew, and if they don't, they undermine public trust in our own democratic institutions. And in the dark world that we live in at the moment, that is something that cannot happen. We must have public trust in our institutions, and if we don't, we all shudder at the thought about what a democracy looks like in the future. So we call on the police minister, we call on the Premier to turn up to the inquiry and answer the questions and rightfully show some transparency on what happened when these laws, as with others, were passed in Parliament.
Zach Schofield, Rising Tide. In November last year, Rising Tide was also at the Supreme Court of New South Wales opposing an exclusion zone that the Chris Minns government put on the entirety of the Port of Newcastle to shut down a peaceful protest. That exclusion zone was overturned because it was illegally imposed by a government that chooses to try and arrest its way out of its own policy failures. Now, if Chris Minns wants to stand with a genocidal state or stand with coal and gas multinational corporations above the interests of New South Wales citizens, he will learn that he cannot arrest his way out of those policy failures, and it is incumbent on all Labor members who believe in the right to peacefully protest to get rid of this guy who decides to put the interests of foreign companies and foreign corporations over the interests of our own citizens. Enough is enough. It's time for Chris Minns to go.
It's very urgent. These laws have already come into effect, and we are, as he said, given what's happening with Israel now massacring every single day hundreds and hundreds of people who are just desperately seeking aid, people who are being deliberately starved by this regime in Israel. Of course, we have been protesting non-stop, and we are going to keep protesting. And therefore, we need to demand our rights to protest, which is what we're here to do today. So yeah, it's an urgent matter. I don't know exactly when we expect to get a result from this case, but we hope as soon as possible.
Josh, or maybe Peter, this action right now, then, where does it stand in terms of your reading of that law?
Well, this is a good example. Right now, we're protesting. We don't have a Form 1. There's a church right there. So, if the police wanted to, technically right now, they could say we are protesting near a place of worship. They could concoct a story that we are somehow harassing or impeding those churchgoers, and potentially this very assembly right now could therefore be moved on. Now, I'm not saying the police will do that in every single instance, obviously, but the fact that they have that power is appalling and is a great threat to our rights to protest at this stage.
And Peter, can I get your view on that? And I guess the key basis of law, the argument that we based
with this law is that it isn't about harassing or menacing or intimidating parishioners. In fact, the legislation doesn't even comment on that. It is all about the place, the geographical position of the protest. So if it's near or within the curtilage of a church or within a geographical distance of it that's considered near to, then that is sufficient fact for police to come in and disperse protesters. And that leads to ugly, miserable experiences for democracy, because it fundamentally undermines the right in a place like Sydney to go about freedom of assembly, which is a constitutional right that we all have, to protest, to gather, and to make our voices heard in a gathering. Now, if police are given that sort of power, it leads to ugly, ugly results. And that is the real concern, that that we have as plaintiffs.
Is near to within line of sight? Is that?
I think, well, it's near to, and that is it's so vague as to be hopeless.
During the parliamentary debates and my questions to the Attorney General in briefings about the laws, I specifically asked, what is your definition of near? What can people expect? Is it 2 metres, 20 metres, 5 metres, 200 metres? We deliberately didn't get an answer to those questions. What is very clear, as the lawyers have articulated, is this was never about trying to protect parishioners, trying to protect people exercising their freedoms and rights at places of worship. This was about arbitrary powers of the police to make discretionary decisions on the spot to vilify and harm members of the community exercising their civil rights to protest. We know that these laws are undefined. We tried in the Parliament to move amendments to say that we have never seen this kind of unfettered police power to move people on. We tried to move amendments saying the police must form reasonable suspicion of intent to interfere with the right to exercise the freedom of religion and in places of worship. But no, the government would not entertain any reasonable amendments. That can only lead us to draw the one conclusion which we have drawn, and that this is a provision of arbitrary overreach of powers to the police of New South Wales, and it's terribly dangerous lawmaking to our democracy.
It also gives us a way to reduce firebombings and graffiti attacks. Do you think it achieves that?
It does nothing to achieve any form of public safety. If you are looking to suppress criminal activity, then introduce the laws, or that we already have ample laws of dealing with criminal activity. Police have ample powers. We did not need these powers, and the likelihood is these powers are unconstitutional.
Just on the inquiries, there have been 5 summonses issued to government staffers. Can you explain why that was necessary and what can happen with those if they're not reviewed?
So under the New South Wales Parliamentary Evidence Act, there are powers of the Parliament, and particularly they are exercised through the Parliamentary Inquiries Committees process, that when an invitation to a witness to attend an inquiry is refused, the Parliament has powers under the Evidence Act to issue summonses demanding the attendance of certain witnesses. It's important to remember that the New South Wales Legislative Council, under that law, does not have powers to summons members of the lower house. So the Premier Chris Minns, the Police Minister Yasmin Catley, neither of those two members of Parliament are able to be summoned, but clearly their staff and other members of the community that the Parliamentary Committee believes would assist the inquiry in their findings, their forensic activity and their deliberations, then the law provides that a summons can be issued, and the committee has exercised that power. We're yet to see what will happen.
If I can just add to that. I mean, clearly Chris Minns is just trying to avoid fronting up to this inquiry, or his staff having to answer questions. That's what's going on. He's a Premier who says he doesn't have time to turn up to a parliamentary inquiry to answer questions about what his government knew when they were rushing through laws in this Parliament. And we know what they knew, because the police were saying all through late January that they suspected that what was going on was not in fact anything to do with genuine anti-Semitic attacks in this society, and definitely nothing to do with protests, and yet the Minns government rushed through laws on Parliament exactly on that premise. And we see the constant attempt by Minns to conflate what has been appalling criminal activity with protests, but the two have nothing to do with each other whatsoever. This has been a cynical use by Chris Minns to try to use that whole affair to smear and now to ban protests in his state. And he's made no secret of the fact that he would like to ban our protests from day one, actually, if we remember. This is a government that's been consistently trying to shut down, silence and smear the Palestine movement and other movements in this state for the environment and for many other causes.
So do you have any examples you'd like to share about when protests outside places of worship have been instrumental in creating change or have helped stop atrocities?
Without wanting to speak on their behalf, the survivors of child sexual abuse have often used representations or protest demonstrations out the front of many religious institutions that have affected them in bringing attention to very significant things that have obviously occurred behind closed doors. These are demonstrations that would otherwise be affected by these laws, and it's to the disgrace of the Minsk government that it's a time when we should be backing in survivors. We're actually undermining their rights to represent or bring attention to anything. But any cause that might relate to an institution, a religious institution, is deeply impacted by these laws, and they're so vague in their drafting that they can apply to all of us with the complete whim of the police, and that's not fair on the police, and it's certainly not fair on us.
Just finally, in relation to the inquiry and the comments that have been made, as a member of a committee, a number of committees of the New South Wales Upper House, it's really important to understand that witnesses turn up and front up when they believe in accountability, and they've got absolutely nothing to hide about the truth of the inquiry. And that's why it's very concerning that the Premier, the Minister and others are seeking to avoid turning up before the Parliamentary Committee that is simply looking to expose what was known and what wasn't known in the lead up to the making of and the rushing through Parliament of these very undemocratic, dangerous laws.
Do you think you have success with this?
We're yet to see. We're following the parliamentary processes. We obviously, as members of the Upper House, believe very deeply in the accountability functions of the Parliament and the New South Wales Upper House. And never before, really, have these parliamentary processes of accountability on behalf of the people of New South Wales been abused. So we hope very much that the respect will prevail.
Thanks, everyone. Just letting everyone know, it's a public gallery. People can hit it if they want to observe the goings on and all that.
Stop the genocide!
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 Stop the
genocide!
Stop the genocide!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
What we're going to do, everyone, because I know a lot of people will probably want to go in and sort of watch the court proceedings for a bit, and it is open like Josh said, but we might just gather here for a little bit, make a bit of noise, make it clear what we're doing, standing up for the right to demonstrate and opposing Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza before a bunch of us head in. My name's Damien from the Palestine Action Group, one of the organisers of a lot of the protests over the last almost 2 years fighting against this genocide. And as you probably those heard the comments made by Josh and others who are part of the court case about why it's so essential that we defend the right to protest, because we know that the government in this state and the federal government in this country would love nothing less than to be able to silence anyone who wants to stand up against their appalling support for the massacre of tens of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza by the brutal racist regime, the Israeli regime, over the last 18 months. And they have tried consistently to silence the right to protest and silence those who are trying to stand up in support of Palestine. The very first demonstrations that we held here in Sydney, on the onset of Netanyahu launching his genocide in Gaza, they tried everything they could to ban us from gathering and standing against this horrific genocide. Shame. Chris Minns came out in the media explicitly saying that he would stop any demonstration in support of Palestine if he had the power to in those opening days of the genocide. Shame. Thankfully, they failed. They failed because they did not have the legal powers to do it, but they also failed because tens of thousands of people in this city said, we don't care if it's illegal, we will come out on the streets to stand against genocide, just try and stop us. And ever since then, Minns has stopped at nothing to try and slander and smear those who are standing on the right side of history to oppose what Israel is doing to the Palestinians in Gaza. We saw last year that they were desperately trying to shut down the protesting, marking 1 year since the start of the genocide. And they took us to court to try and shut down all those protests. And fortunately, we won and upheld our right to gather in the streets and stand against these brutal war crimes. We've seen how they utilised this criminal con job that they knew from very early on was not a genuine wave of anti-Semitic attacks, but a con job carried out by criminal organisations trying to manipulate the police and the legal systems. They used that cynically to try and smear those who've been standing up for the rights of Palestinians, and they used those cynically to rush in laws that fundamentally undermine the right to protest in this state. That's what this court case is about today, and it's essential that we oppose these anti-democratic attacks that we see the Chris Minns government laying against us. But nonetheless, regardless of what the outcome of the court case is today, democracy is only upheld when people fight to maintain those rights. Regardless of the outcome, we will continue to protest, we will continue to assert our right to gather in the streets, to speak truth to power, to hold those to account, those up in Macquarie Street there, who want to continue rubbing shoulders with the war criminals like Benjamin Netanyahu, who continue want to trying to whitewash the genocide that Israel is carrying out, and also now have actually made it clear that they're quite happy with Israel's most recent launching of a war on Iran. We've seen Penny Wong, shamefully, Penny Wong coming out in the media saying that Iran needs to disarm because Israel has been levelling buildings and apartment blocks all throughout Tehran. Saying that it's hard to say whether Australia would support a US invasion of Iran or not. Absolutely disgraceful comments when the only right and decent thing to say would be to come out and denounce the war on Iran, say no to war, say no to the US's increasing aggression and belligerence in the Middle East, and say actually those who are responsible for the vast majority of deaths in the region, the United States and its allies, they are the ones who need to disarm.
in Gaza, we see it in West Bank, we see it across all of Palestine from this miserable little colony, and now we see them invading again Lebanon, making incursions into Syria. No doubt they have their eye on the entire region. In fact, we don't even have to speculate. The Israeli leaders since day one have actually made it quite clear in their own cabinet meetings and so on that they have a vision of not only Israel from the river to the sea, but Israel from the river to the river, and the second river was the Euphrates. So we have no question in our mind that this is a war of aggression. We need to be able to protest everything that Israel does, from its genocide in Gaza, to its ethnic cleansing in the West Bank, to its entire occupation and apartheid in all of Palestine, its invasions of Lebanon, its incursions and invasions of Syria, its attacks on Iran. We all need to be free to say no, no and no again. Thanks very much.
Free Palestine. Stop the genocide.
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 Thanks for everyone. As everyone, we got so much comment, what you guys changed, what you guys changed. Of course, we're not gonna stop the war, but we can show the world what this honest project they did to this world. Every time, like we believe, like, oh my God, the war is gonna be stopped. This guy, he's opening another war to save his ass from what he's doing as a genocide. He never gonna away with that what he's doing. So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep on the street. We're gonna stay on the street. We're gonna stay to ask for ceasefire and free Palestine from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea! Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free.
From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free.
Alright, thanks a lot everyone for coming out today. It's great to see people coming out short notice to come and support this court case, show support for Palestine. Just a reminder, I'm sure a lot of us will want to go in and sort of have a look at what's going on with the court case. But a reminder that this Sunday we are gathering again at Hyde Park for the regular demonstrations against the genocide in Gaza. If you haven't seen this week, it's slightly earlier than usual, so we're meeting at 12:30 for the start of the demonstration. So that's this Sunday, 12:30 here at Hyde Park.